Rookie of the year. Jared McCain, who has set an NBA record for most points scored by a rookie in his first 4 starts. He's playing insane for the Sixers. Also, Paul George is out another 2 weeks now. That got announced like 20 minutes ago with a hyperextended the same knee. Jared McCain is the favorite, plus 140. Dalton Knecht, who dropped 37 points the other night for the Lakers, is plus 200. The number 1 overall pick in the draft, Zachary Reese-Shea at 11. Bub Carrington at 14. Zach Edey at 16. I'm liking Stephon Castle of the Spurs right now, Femi, at 22-1. What's your breakdown of NBA Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, this is one right now where Jared McCain is installed as the favorite because he leads all these rookies in scoring. I'm looking at it right now. He's 15.6 points per game, which is the most. The next closest person is Dalton Knecht at 11 points per game. My issue, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago with Jared McCain, is that when all of these guys get back, what does it look like? Now, as we've seen today with this news and after last night's game, maybe all these guys never come back and play together because apparently when they get Embiid and Maxey, they lose Paul George to another hyperextended knee. I can't wait to see what the Embiid injury is like when Paul George gets back and it's just George and Maxey and Jared McCain. So, this is a very volatile situation because you just don't know what it will be for Jared McCain from a usage standpoint when they have all 3 of those guys, if they ever have all 3 of those big 3 guys that they kind of built this team around. But if they're out, McCain becomes the beneficiary of this thing, and he is going to be able to go ahead and take his shots and take 12, 15 shots per game. And if that's the case, maybe he does just ultimately go and run the table here and win Rookie of the Year. But I'm still skeptical of that right now as we sit here on November 21st. So for me, I still gravitate towards the first overall pick from the draft. I still like Zachary Reese-Shea at 11-1. It just feels like his playing time and his role is much more stable than the likes of McCain or even Dalton Knecht, who, Nick mentioned he had the record-breaking 3-point performance for rookies the other night. But it just feels like he's going to have random scoring outbursts where he's on fire, or there's other games where he scores 4 points and is not really an integral part of the offense. Reese-Shea's role is a lot more stable with the Atlanta Hawks, and who knows, maybe the Hawks make some trades and Reese-Shea's role even elevates in that offense as well. So at 11-1, the guy who was the first overall pick, I still like him as a Rookie of the Year. Doesn't have to be a big bet, could be a small bet, but I'm still playing against Jared McCain this early in the season, being like, oh, he's just going to be like a 15 points per game scorer the rest of the way. There's still a lot of season left to go. Things can change. And all of a sudden, if everyone's healthy for Philadelphia, things will change for Jared McCain.
Zachary Reese-Shea, 11-1. Femi's thought right now for Rookie of the Year. What about most improved player? Jalen Williams of the Thunder, 4-1. Jalen Johnson of the Hawks, plus 650. Dyson Daniels of Atlanta is 10-1. Yeah. And Franz Wagner, our guy Franz, Femi, is at 7. Is this a WPF situation? Wrong player favored in this market?
I believe that is the case. I believe Franz Wagner has a path to being a first-time All-Star, and last night, obviously, he's only scored 14 points, but he has been scoring 25 points per game over the last 2.5, 3 weeks. Now, Franz Wagner has sort of made that leap, and NBA writers and people who talk about the sport are talking about Franz making that leap, and that's exactly what you want to hear for a guy that could potentially win Most Improved Player. Look, Jalen Williams, yes, he's never been an All-Star, but people already think of Jalen Williams as a really good player. He got votes for this award last year. He was in contention for this award. Franz Wagner was not. And as long as Paolo Banchero continues to be out, which he is, and even when he does come back, I think the Magic are realizing they have a legitimate scorer and creator in Franz Wagner. I think Wagner should be your favorite at this point for Most Improved Player. At 7-1, it's a bet, but if you've been listening to the show for the past month, you should have much, much better numbers than the current 7-1 that's out there. But we are Team Franz. There's still meat left on the bone. Go ahead and get it while it still lasts.
How good is the meat?
Oh, it's tender, baby. It's falling off the bone.
It's falling off the bone.
It's falling off the bone.
All right.
Most valuable player, the most prominent NBA award that we have, which the reigning defending MVP, Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets, also happens to be your favorite in the market. Jokic plus 200 over at BetMGM. He is followed by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at plus 275. Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, 4-1. We had Matt Moore on earlier a few weeks ago, and he talked about Jason Tatum as a legitimate MVP candidate this year as opposed to years past when he really didn't have the efficiency numbers to be an MVP guy. Anthony Edwards is 11-1. Luka Doncic, who's now going to be out for at least a week, is sitting there at 13-1. Anthony Davis is at 14-1. But usually, like we always do, which every single awards market, we attack it by asking the first question, is the favorite vulnerable? Is the favorite flawed? Nikola Jokic right now, Doesn't seem like he's flawed, to be quite honest. Like, his team is not like the best. They're currently the 5 seed in the Western Conference. Denver's sitting there at 8-5. But I mean, you can't really read too much into seeding right now. It's still early on in the year. But from an individual standpoint, individual production, Jokic is on one. Like, this dude is completely on a tear, and he looks even better than what he looked like in his 3 previous MVP seasons, which is hard to believe because he's been an awesome, like, all-time great already, but this might be his best year. I mean, he's first in player efficiency rating, he's first in win shares per 48, first in box plus minus, all metrics that help us decide who wins MVP. Like, he is 100% a justified favorite, and you ask yourself, the only way he loses is maybe if Denver were to completely fall off. Let's say they get into like the play-in tournament, or maybe they're like a 6 seed or only a 5 seed. That's how he could lose. But right now, from an individual standpoint, like, he is a justified favorite with a capital F. Like, he's balling out of control. But some other names to kind of keep in mind. First of all, this is not one to keep in mind. This is one to kind of scratch off, at least for my opinion. Anthony Edwards, he's 11-1. His numbers do not scream MVP. And I know everybody loves Ant-Man. I love Ant-Man. The Adidas ads that they have are awesome. It's a great campaign. It's really made him into like this kind of mythological figure, but the numbers just don't match. I mean, he's 43rd in player efficiency rating, 82nd in win shares per 48. Like, that's not MVP caliber. And so far in his career, he hasn't shown the ceiling to be kind of like that, like, do everything player that typically wins this award. He's more of a scorer. And this year he's starting to shoot more threes, which you miss a lot of threes. All of a sudden your efficiency numbers tend to drop off a little bit. So Ant-Man, I think right now, dead money in the market. Luka, I think, is a guy you still want to keep your eye on, but let's see with this injury. If the wrist injury ends up being longer than a week, then you start to kind of like, not scratch him off, but you at least pick up the pen on Luka Doncic. You're like, okay, you start hovering around that name because you start missing 2-3 weeks, then you're up against it as it pertains to the player participation policy where you have to play at least 65 games to be considered for these awards. Anthony Davis is another interesting one. Right now, he's 2nd in PER, 5th in win shares per 48. The Lakers have been really good this season. Right now, 10-4. They're playing well. They've won 6 straight. Anthony Davis, his problem is that you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And by that, I mean, you're waiting for him to get hurt. Like, last season, Anthony Davis played 76 games, which was a career high. Do we really expect him to follow that up with like another 70-plus game season? Like, for me, I don't really expect that from Anthony Davis. We don't want to root for injuries. We want everyone to stay healthy, but we also have to be realistic. And I think if you're being realistic and you're being honest, at some point, Anthony Davis is going to miss some time this NBA season. So for me, like, that's the only other name that I'd be keeping an eye on right now for the MVP market, but nothing to do from a betting standpoint because Jokic is the favorite, and he should be the favorite based on how he's been playing.